Spoiler, the old pervert who trains the protagonist is going to win this battle. There are two types of warriors, those who are born in chaos, and those who were trained by someone who survived chaos. And in the world of anime, it seems that the wiser the master is, the weirder he is. Sometimes even a criminal if we stop to think about it. But don't be fooled. Beneath the appearance of a perverted old man or a wanderer in a dirty kimono, there could be someone with enough power to destroy an island, or even teach a god how to fight. And today we're going to talk about two of these veterans who have left their mark on generations, both within the universe of their stories and beyond. On one side, we have Kame Sennin, the legendary Master Kame, who shaped Goku and the entire fighting style foundation of the Z Warriors. On the other, Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, who took a completely wild Naruto and turned him into one of the most powerful ninjas in the history of the Hidden Leaf Village, if not the most powerful. Both were mentors to heroes who saved the world more than once. Both taught techniques that changed the course of their respective stories, and both are completely problematic. But the question is, who would win in a real battle? Today we are going to analyze the powers, feats, strategies, and weaknesses of these two legendary shonen monsters and find out who would come out alive in a duel between the Sage of the Waves and the Sage of the Toads. Few characters have been as underestimated and at the same time as influential as the old Kame. He's not the most muscular. Well, sometimes he is, but usually he's not. He doesn't fly around trading punches with golden gods, nor does he have 1,000 transformations. But the guy has lived for over 300 years, survived countless generations of villains, and still finds time to train young people who end up saving the universe. And the question that remains is, how does an old man with zero interest in rivaling Goku, for example, still manage to be so relevant in a story where people blow up planets with a sneeze? Simple. Experience, technique, and absolute control over his own body and energy. Kame doesn't need golden forms because he masters the basics. And mastering the basics is mastering everything. He's not the master of the Kikuro, which he even admits is stronger than his own attack. He doesn't use many of Goku and Vegeta's abilities, but he masters the concept of ki control like few others. He doesn't fly. That's true. There's even a joke at the beginning of the Tournament of Power in the manga because flying wasn't allowed there, and for Master Kame that didn't make any difference. But he hits targets in the air, dodges blasts, and has already faced flying enemies using pure body reading. And even when he's not at his physical peak, he knows exactly how much energy to use to keep the fight under control. Unlike many characters who evolve through brute strength, Kame is almost like a shogi player or a chess fighter. He knows how to tire out his opponent, provoke mistakes, and exploit openings. Not to mention that he is one of the few so-called normal characters who manage to trick enemies as strong as Frieza's forces and get out alive. Have you ever seen anyone blow up a moon with their bare hands? Master Kame has. And no, it wasn't a metaphor. Literally, he ripped off his shirt, bulked up, and obliterated an entire satellite just to stop Goku, who had transformed into an Uzuru, from destroying everything. That was back when he was still considered just an old man and a side character, even though he had already shown incredible strength. Back then, he was the man. The destruction of the moon is one of the most ignored or misunderstood feats in classic Dragon Ball. It's not just a demonstration of strength, it's an absurd energy calculation. To disintegrate a celestial body of that size, even without vaporizing everything, it's necessary to release a force in the range of billions of tons of trinitrotoluene. And that's using the same move that became the franchise's signature, the Kamehameha. And the craziest part is, he did that in classic Dragon Ball, before any transformation, before Goku became an adult, before that even became a substantial concept within the franchise. Oh, and that's not even the best part. The same old man who destroyed the moon with a single blow also fought against dozens of soldiers from Frieza's army and survived. Even with age weighing on him, Kame still has the speed to react to energy blasts, reflexes sharp enough to catch projectiles in midair, and a level of combat reading that even impressed Goku during the Tournament of Power. In Dragon Ball Super, one of his main feats was fighting and defeating several of Frieza's soldiers at the same time. And each soldier of the Frieza Force is the strongest warrior on their planet, and all of them have at least a power level of 1,000, which according to the legendary manga, is enough to destroy small planets. But that's not even close to being Kame's greatest feat in Dragon Ball Super, but it already shows that he doesn't need to win by strength. He wins because he's already seen every version of a fight and has already won almost all of them. Experience. But not everything is eternal glory. Master Kame is strong, yes, but he's not a god. He bleeds, he gets tired, and unlike most Dragon Ball warriors, he is after all a human. Does that limit him? It does, but it also makes him more valuable. Unlike the Saiyajin, who get stronger with every beating, or the Namekians who can regenerate, Kame has an aged body. Every time he uses too much of his life energy, he risks simply dying. Just like his own master Mutaito did when he used the Mafuba, the famous sealing technique. Kame doesn't end up dying from this technique. He comes back, persists, and even trains more. Kame represents something rare in the Dragon Ball universe, the idea that pure effort and wisdom can still win, even in a world where aliens and deities duel across the multiverse. He has the merit of having trained Goku, Kuririn, Yamcha, and even in the Tournament of Power, he showed that age or size doesn't matter. Those who understand fighting survive in it. That's why he was one of the last to be eliminated by Universe 7, and Kuririn, who was considered stronger than Master Kame, which the tournament clearly proved wrong, was eliminated right away. Kame's strength lies less in what he can destroy, and more in what he has built. The Kame style, the code of honor, the training with real physical limits, even if sometimes it's just carrying a bit of milk. Even so, what he teaches transcends generations. He is possibly the last pure human who still stands strong in a world of monsters. While in Dragon Ball, the world was saved countless times by muscular aliens, in Naruto, the fate of the planet fell into the hands of traumatized orphans, ancient prophecies, and an old pervert who wrote erotic books that Master Kame would love to read. The only thing missing were the pictures, but Jiraiya was much more than he seemed. Far from his forced humor and sloppy appearance, this man was a living encyclopedia of the shinobi world. He lived through the great ninja wars, learned the secrets of the villages, was a spy, a master, a warrior, and above all, a link between generations. He was the only link between Naruto and Minato's past, and perhaps the last old-school master of the Leaf. Unlike other characters who inherited titles or Kekkei Genkai, Jiraiya built everything through hard work, studied every type of jutsu, learned to manipulate chakra in many different ways, and at a certain point decided to isolate himself to better understand the mysteries of the world or to check out the ladies. That's how he found the toads of Mount Myoboku, wise and ancient beings who expanded his power beyond ordinary human comprehension. But the most interesting thing about Jiraiya isn't his brute strength or his techniques, it's the way he thinks. He's one of the few characters in Naruto who fights with his body, mind, and soul at the same time. Each of his techniques has an idea behind it, and every strike carries its own philosophy, and his last fight clearly demonstrates that. Therefore, he's not just a ninja, something he represents very well. He was an author, a prophet, and above all, an ideological warrior. Jiraiya was never the fastest, the most destructive, not even in his own team as a child. And he certainly wasn't the most well-behaved in the village, but he was, perhaps, the most adaptable. While many ninjas specialized in one type of jutsu and repeated the same techniques until the end of the series, Jiraiya was a walking encyclopedia of ninjutsu. Fire, earth, summons, traps, clones, detection techniques, environment manipulation. He mastered everything. If he had to turn the battlefield into a living trap, he would do it. That's how he made Itachi run away. It's true that Itachi already wanted to run away. He didn't want any trouble. But if Jiraiya needed to disappear in the smoke, he would. And when it was time to blow everything up, he knew how to do that too. Especially if someone tried to collect a debt from him. Just what he did with his hair would be enough to scare a lot of ninjas out there, creating shields, firing projectiles, or even defending himself from slashing attacks with the same technique. But his real trump card was something that few could fully master: Sage Mode. Senjutsu is basically a fusion between the ninja's internal chakra and the natural energy around them. It's like he takes what he already has inside himself and fuses it with the very essence of the environment: trees, rocks, even the air. The result? Enhanced reflexes, multiplied strength, and techniques so refined that they surpass the limits of what the human body could endure on its own. But Jiraiya didn't fully master this state. He still needed help from the two old toad sages on his shoulders to channel the energy correctly. Even so, in this state, he faced the greatest enemy of his life. The fight against Ben was not just a battle, it was a farewell, and above all, a lesson. Jiraiya was already old, tired, and emotionally shaken when he decided to investigate the Village of the Rain alone. He knew the enemy was powerful, he knew he might not come back. In fact, he was sure of it, that's why Tsunade cried. But that's how it was, because it was the kind of mission no one else could accomplish, and he was never the kind of man to let others do the dirty work. On the other side, it wasn't just a villain. Pain was the twisted reflection of everything Jiraiya tried to teach. A former student, a failed experiment, a warning that even good intentions can give rise to monsters. Even so, the old ninja moved forward. In battle, Jiraiya managed to defeat 3 of Pain's 6 bodies, using intelligence, field knowledge, and partial mastery of Sage Mode. He deciphered the mechanics of the enemy's abilities in the middle of the fight, risking everything to understand how that power worked. When he had the chance, he used his last bit of energy to send an encoded message, ensuring that Naruto would have a real chance in the future. That attitude, more than any jutsu, is what defines his legacy. Jiraiya didn't win on the battlefield. He won through strategy, through long-term vision. He knew his body wouldn't return from that mission, but his knowledge would, and that was more than enough. Jiraiya wasn't invincible, and maybe that's exactly why he's so memorable. He failed, was rejected by women, made jokes at the wrong time, was misunderstood, and yet no one ever called him a coward. Because Jiraiya faced what needed to be faced, even when he was at a disadvantage, even when the whole world shouted that it was impossible. His way of teaching wasn't as strict as Kakashi's, nor as dramatic as Itachi's. He trained by building bonds, playing, testing, observing, and he trusted the process, no matter how messy it was. Naruto, a boy who was doubted by everyone, found in the old pervert the first adult who saw him as more than just a Jinchuriki. But of course, Jiraiya also had his limits. Physically, he was never the fastest. His Sage Mode had restrictions, and maybe he would have become much stronger if he could have trained for longer and not just done his research. And even though he refused to become Hokage and wasn't the strongest, he stood out mainly because he believed in others.
Putting Master Kame and Jiraiya side by side seems strange at first.
One is a martial artist from the early 80s, from a world where Kai is the fundamental force of existence. The other is a ninja from the 2000s shaped in a universe where chakra rules over the elements and reality. 2 old perverts who serve as comic relief until they get into a fight. But despite their similar appearances and similar narrative roles, they represent very different philosophies of strength. Comment below if you like philosophical videos like this. Not everything is just about fighting, right guys? Master Kame is physical endurance, mastery of the basics, the power to survive the passage of time. He's the kind of fighter who's seen it all and knows every detail of the human body, the opponent's movements, and vital energy. He doesn't need to surprise you, he just needs to wait for you to make a mistake. Jiraiya is improvisation, practical knowledge. The guy who didn't necessarily master everything completely, but knew how to use a bit of everything in a creative way. He creates traps, manipulates the terrain, uses clones, distractions, and illusions. And he doesn't win just because he's stronger, but because he thinks 3 steps ahead. It might seem silly, but he's a genius. While Kame represents absolute self-control, Jiraiya is the understanding of the chaos around him. One was essential for the foundation of the most classic heroes, the other to save the world in a collapsing era. Now let's make one thing very clear. Jiraiya is a formidable ninja. Within the Naruto universe, he is among the greats. But when we start talking about absolute power scales, the gap between him and Master Kame is almost impossible to overcome. Let's start with the basics. Jiraiya, at the peak of Sage Mode, is strong enough to destroy gigantic structures and cause large-scale impact. He has techniques that involve large amounts of chakra, can summon gigantic creatures, and his enhanced Rasengan is mentioned in the databooks as being able to carve through even mountains. Impressive. But Kame destroyed the moon, and that's not an exaggeration or a fan misunderstanding. In classic Dragon Ball, before any Super Saiyan existed, He channeled enough energy to obliterate an entire celestial body. We're talking about releasing something in the trillions of megatons with a single blow. That's not the level of an average Naruto villain. That's final Shonen series level, the part where Naruto starts turning into Dragon Ball. And he does this in the early arcs. The difference here isn't about talent, it's about the universe itself. Dragon Ball has a power curve that turns humans into nuclear weapons. Naruto has a more tactical scale, but it's focused on variety and finesse. When the dust settles, the question is inevitable. Who would win a real fight between these two veterans? The answer is clear. Jiraiya may be more charismatic, more emotional, more versatile in techniques, and maybe even more strategic in certain situations. But in terms of pure combat, Master Kame is simply on a higher level, and the most striking difference between them is power and speed. Jiraiya is at a level that impresses within his own world. He can keep up with ninjas who react to lightning, which puts his reaction speed at around 350,000 kilometers per hour. That's already beyond what any real human could conceive, but what about Kame? Kame also plays on another level. In the Tournament of Power, he faced multiple opponents simultaneously, dodging attacks from fighters who rivaled Goku and Frieza from the beginning of Zed. And not only did he survive, he outsmarted and defeated these opponents with pure technique, even though he wasn't as powerful as many of them. Kame even confronted Jiren himself for a few moments, the same Jiren who was stronger than Goku with incomplete Ultra Instinct. And he did this using a kind of pseudo-instinct, a level of self-control so high that his actions seemed automatic. He was one of the last to be eliminated from Universe 7. It was only thanks to him that Goku achieved Ultra Instinct, and he showed that he's still mentally ahead of Goku himself. This isn't just about speed. What he did there was perception on a superhuman level, but what if the fight dragged on? That wouldn't be a problem for the old man from the island either. Jiraiya has a lot of endurance, yes. But Kame faced dozens of soldiers from Frieza's army, soldiers who would vaporize humans with a single attack. They can even destroy planets, depending on the soldier. And he still had the energy to keep fighting after that. And that's with over 300 years on his back. In the end, what we have here is a legendary ninja against a martial artist who has dodged punches from beings superior to gods. Literally, it's a matter of scale, of universe. As skilled, versatile, and noble as Jiraiya is, Kame has won battles on fields that the Toad Sage never had to step on. Saying that Master Kame would defeat Jiraiya doesn't diminish the legacy of the Toad Sage. On the contrary, Jiraiya is a deep, complex character with a journey marked by pain, hope, and sacrifice. He taught Naruto to believe in himself when no one else did. He faced his own past and died with dignity, like a true hero. But when we talk about pure combat, on neutral ground, with both at their peak, the scales tip in favor of the Turtle Sage. Even Jiraiya's famous genjutsu ability, the Frog Song, would have real difficulties here. First, because Kame is not just any opponent. He faced warriors with mental techniques, illusions, sealing, and spiritual manipulation in the Tournament of Power. And he managed to get out of complex situations with pure Kai awareness. In Dragon Ball, Ki also serves as a tool for perception, a way to sense the environment, to stay present even when the senses are affected. This has already been used by Goku and Vegeta to escape manipulations. And it's plausible to assume that Kame, with hundreds of years of mastery over this strategy, could detect the distortion of reality and break the genjutsu by sheer willpower, but mainly through energy control. And if that wasn't enough, Kame still has a rare trait. He reads movements with absurd precision. The pseudo-ultra instinct he demonstrates against fighters on Jiren's level isn't just reflexes, it's like a preemptive reading, a reaction without hesitation. And this absolute mastery of his body in sync with the fight, combined with his infinitely greater speed, wouldn't even allow Jiraiya to access his genjutsu. In the end, the result is simple. Jiraiya may be the master of a hero, but Kame is the master of a god. Two men who represent the noblest qualities in fighting anime. Teaching by example, courage in the face of the impossible, and sacrifice in the name of something greater. But only one of them can blow up the moon with the palm of his hand and dodge attacks from a being that defies time and space. That's why the winner is Master Kame. Making a video like this takes a lot of work, so leave a like down below. If you're not subscribed to Universo Z, subscribe because there are a lot of really good videos. You can watch the next ones. There are several suggested here on the screen. And if you're on your phone, hit the hype bar button because it helps a lot and it's free. And always support Universo Z so I can keep bringing these videos to you, because making them frequently and with quality is a lot of work. So, encourage me to stay here with you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And that's basically it, guys. Thank you for your support. I'll stop here and I'm out.